This is my E string groove. Is that all right? Is that all right, Darren? Rosie's come up to say hi. Normally I'd be going at this point in time, but not going to happen today because I have this gorgeous one with me. Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show, viewers, comments and questions live. Dan here. Hope you're all doing awesome. Yeah, what a week it's been. Very, very interesting week.
Hello everyone. Salutations and warm greetings on this Monday Eve. If you're in the United Kingdom, you'll be enjoying some unusually warm weather.
It's lovely.
It hasn't started thundering yet, has it?
No.
That's normally next. Normally next.
There is a really important question I need to ask you.
Okay.
How's your mower?
Bad.
Oh no!
Yeah. It's turned out that it's
It was the bad model. It was the silver clone.
I've bought a Formula 1 car to go shopping in, basically, is what's happening, and it's not really suitable for my lawn because my lawn isn't in good enough condition.
Seriously?
For the mower. Yeah, because it's a... Welcome to viewers' comments and questions. We do sort of talk about guitars and stuff, and we have super chats, which I'm about to turn off because we've got loads. It will be about guitars, amps and pedals, but one of the recent topics of conversation has been lawn mowing, because I bought a traditional Atco cylinder mower. I think you call them reel mowers in the US. But my lawn's too bumpy.
No way.
It needs to be much more cricket pitch-like, or indeed cricket wicket-like.
Right.
So I should be selling it again. If anyone wants a nice Atco 20-inch mower, then it will be for sale. Unfortunately, I could spend another 3 years leveling the lawn, but that's going to go. That's not too much, so it's okay. Sometimes it's important to scratch the itch.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have to know rather than be told. We're okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can log in. Anyway, welcome on this Monday night. Thanks for joining us, everyone. If I can ever log in, I will turn the super chats off. Which is proving to be a problem. Many thanks to BV for moderating and being among the chat. Thank
Indeed.
you, BV, as always. I seem to have internet problems.
Many thanks to it's a very kind gentleman, and I'll work out who it was, put up a post last week about our shop, about thatpedalshowstore.com.
Oh, yeah.
And that was wonderful. So thank you so much. It is how we fund the show. We don't take any money from manufacturers. You can't pay to have products on the show. So
Unless it turns up in a suitcase full of unmarked 50s.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, 50's harder to bank these days.
I find that really interesting because in Australia, it's all hundreds.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's because it's about 10p, is it? $100?
22p.
Okay.
But here, people see a £50 note and freak out.
Yeah, because there's so many fakes, I guess.
Right. Yeah. But so anyway, thank you very much. Yes, the thatpedalshowstore.com. Thank you to anyone that's gone there and bought a t-shirt or bought pedals and strings and stuff. It's it's greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. And to anyone that's watched the Noel episode, and there was a few of you. That was, it's Noel Gallagher, so we knew it was going to be well received. But it was heartening to see all of your reaction to it. It's really lovely.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be big. We didn't quite think it would be that big that quickly. So it will be by far our biggest ever viewed video, and sort of deservedly so.
Yeah.
It was a moment in time. We've talked about it. We'll probably get some questions about it, but Noel basically just gave us the crown jewels.
Yeah.
Which was, well, we're extremely grateful.
Yeah. Next up, Johnny Marr.
Yeah.
Come on, Johnny.
Yeah. And I'm just going to put this out there. I want to do Dave Grohl one day.
Yeah.
That would be... I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
I would love that.
Well, we'll give Chris a call.
Yeah.
To say, hey.
Shifters.
Old shifters.
Me old shifty.
Me old shifty.
Anyway, right, after a long which K Cole 4001, greetings from beautiful sunny northern Nova Scotia. Hello to
lovely. Hello.
David Rustad is on, Thomas Ross is on, Kieran Jones is on. G'day from Seaford, South Australia, he says. Hi, Kieran. Who else we got on? Rob Brewer from a showery but warm Bristol. Ah, that must be coming our way then.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah, Brizzle. Bill Green. Ready for the rain to start, says Bill. Good morning from rainy Florida, said Richard Pribenow. David Peterson's on. Frankie Holt is on. John 777 is on. From Dallas, Georgia, as opposed to Dallas, Texas.
Oh, nice. Gordon Rankin's in with us. G'day, mate.
Hey, Gordon.
Awesome.
Dustin Thiessen from Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Lovely.
Home of some friends of ours. I don't know if you saw, Joey has done a new Fuzz with Dan drive.
Oh, really?
Called the Bonk Machine.
Of course it's the Bonk Machine.
Yeah, and it's what was on his board when he came in last, but we didn't talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and just saying, maybe keep your eyes on that pedal show store soon. Just saying.
Oh, wow.
Just saying. What have you done with Mick, says Basil Tiffany. I was off twiddling knobs. Speaking of knobs, Noel berated us.
Right here.
Noel berated us for not showing the amp knobs in videos, and he absolutely had a point, as do many of you. So we are going to introduce a feature of every That Pedal show. We've just got to remember to do it.
Knobocam.
Called Knobs for Noel.
Knobs for Noel!
It's
That's
either
beautiful.
Knobs for Noel or Noel's Knobs, where we will do a close-up of the amp setting so that you can see the amp settings.
Well, I have to play the little clip of him saying that every time we show the knobs.
I think we should have a little cut out of him looking angry.
Perfect.
Steve L says, Noel, that 355 and that pedal pooch, we've been truly spoiled this week.
Yeah, been a good week.
It's funny now, after playing that guitar, so Noel's got a 1960, I think he said 60, didn't he? ES355. And I can't quite look at my 335 in the same way anymore.
Right. Yeah.
It was truly magic.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
Outrageous guitar.
Yeah. G-Barge, Tad Morrison is on. Josh Tanberg, Eric Flissinger, Chris Prescott is on.
David Peterson, Dwayne Jessam, The Feel Button, Knobs for Noel.
Nice.
Very good.
Hilly Billy George, hi from a sunny summer warm Sweden.
Oh, lovely.
How lovely.
Todd Roy, Nathan Zeck, Chris Curtis R, Happy Hockey. New t-shirt ? Knob for Noel. And how that WEM was set. Yeah, that was awesome.
Lots of people were saying about how amazing the Marshall sounded. About 80% of it was the WEM, for...
If you'd heard the valve state on its own, you would have gone, However, blended with that 20%, blended on top of that 80% of that WEM, was... When he started playing Cigarettes and Alcohol, I had to check myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite believe it.
No.
Yeah, it was just remarkable.
Yeti on guitar is saying, level the lawn with sand. It won't take years. That's kind of interesting.
Oh.
It is interesting. I mean, I would like to not sell it if possible, but the other thing is I've got quite a few slopes. It's also not good on slopes.
Right. Kevin Vanderberg says, hi from warm, I'm going to try, Nijmegen, Netherlands. Congrats on 350,000 subs. Thanks, mate. Yes. Hit 350k today.
We did. Largely thanks to Noel Gallagher.
Indeed.
As Eagle Ray Roberts pointed out, Council Skies, the new record from Noel's High Flying Birds, is excellent. I hear hints of Pink Floyd and the Beatles. Noel creates great melody. It is a cracking album,
It's a cracking album.
Yeah.
My favourite thing he's done in a while.
I can be honest and say I wasn't really into the last couple.
Right.
This one, I've had it on repeat.
Yeah, nice.
This weekend, yeah. He seems like he's really hit a groove.
Yeah.
Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Let us get on to the Super Chai. Thank you to everyone who Super Chats. It's another way that helps us keep doing interesting things here on That Pedal Show.
Yeah.
Alongside That Pedal Show store. And first in, Duncan Plexico.
Ah,
Hello, Duncan.
hey,
How are
mate.
you? He says, hello, D&M. Peace.
Peace indeed to you, good sir.
That's the word.
Yeah.
That's what we all need, isn't it? A bit
Yeah.
of peace. Bit of peace. Thank you, mate. And best to you, buddy. Ziad ZD or Ziad Zidi. Ziad Zidi.
Bless you.
Hi, D&M. Thanks for the great work you do. Any tips for a battery-powered rig usable in a street environment? Singer and guitarist, cheers from Paris.
Oh, interesting. There are some rechargeable ones that make a lot of sense.
Fender did one, and probably still do one. Boss did one that run on batteries.
Pedal Train also did one, the Novo or something.
Yeah, sorry, I was talking about amps. Dan's talking about pedal boards. I would have thought with the massive leaps in battery technology in the last few years, there should be some fairly serious options. But if you look to Fender, Boss, Behringer, Line 6, you will find something, because those guys are always ahead of these curves.
Mm-hmm.
Fender used to do one called the Amp Can many years ago.
I remember that.
Yeah, I think that was battery powered. Roland, although that would be branded Boss now. Yeah, there'll be solutions.
Mm-hmm.
God, you see enough buskers, don't you?
Yeah. So when we were in Japan, those many moons ago, there were some unbelievable buskers who had all their power solutions sort of mobile and sounded amazing.
Yeah.
So it can be done. Joel Habriel says Mission Engineering does one.
They
There you
do.
go. Yeah.
They do. USB power supply.
And Ted Morrison says Bose has a new battery PA.
Mark Myers says, who does? Sorry, Bose?
Bose,
Oh, yeah.
Bose has one, and that's from Ted Morrison, and Gordon Rankin says that. Bose has the battery single PA that works well. I have one and it works well. Roland has one as well.
Mark Myers is saying it would appear the Noel video isn't up anymore.
What?
Yeah, it's there.
Blinking heck, mate.
It's there. Noel Gallagher, Guitars and Gear. It's the first video on the channel when you log in. Maybe clear your cache, refresh your browser. It's definitely there. Unless you have some sort of particular territorial issue, but I don't understand what that would be. It's there, Mark.
Steve Woody says Roland Street Cube.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember when I said Roland.
Right.
There you go. There's a bunch of options there then. Right, let us move along. God, it's hot.
It's lovely.
I struggle in the heat, I'm
Really?
afraid. Ranzer. D&M and B and K and H and R. They would be the collective that pedal show humans and animals. Busy all week, saving for the Noel ep like fine wine for when I have time. Finally got to it, and eyes popped out at 500k views in 4 days. Yeah. They're huge. I mean, it's huge numbers for us, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I was looking up some stuff this afternoon. We're gonna do the long awaited funk show tomorrow, and I was looking up some stuff just to check a couple things. 8.9 million views, 12 million views, 15 million views of dudes I've never heard of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's always a bit of context there. In our world, in our little world, it's massive.
Yeah.
And we're very grateful to everyone who watched. And well deserved, says Ran. That interview was one for the ages. Absolutely loved every second. Not to mention the Oasis bender I've been on since. Thank you. It is funny. One theme that came through the comments was, maybe people weren't necessarily big Oasis fans or loved the music that much. Or they were aware of the Gallagher brothers because of all the press and all of that and the whole band and the bad boy image and all of that. And probably, I certainly did in the 90s, gave it a bit of a wide berth because it just wasn't my thing.
Right.
What I hadn't, this is what was coming through in the comments, what I hadn't quite realised is just how rock and roll they were.
Sure.
How raw those guitar sounds were, how flipping balls out rock it was.
Yeah.
because the melodies are so good.
You forget.
And for all those people who say, "Oh, it sounds just like the Beatles," you've clearly never listened to the Beatles. But yeah, Ran, I'm totally with you, Ran. I've been going back and listening to some stuff, and it was obviously we have a bit of motivated understanding on the whole thing now because we feel so fuzzy about the whole experience.
Yeah.
But he was right. It was the last big time in music.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know, well, don't want to say universal because they never went over that big in America, but now everything is so fragmented in the music sphere.
Right.
We're in a truly postmodern kind of situation, aren't we? Where you can listen to anything, anywhere, on anything, pretty much. And there's no funnel anymore. And back then, that was the last time there was a sort of mainstream funnel.
Yeah.
Where millions of people were listening to the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, millions of people listen to Taylor Swift, but anyway, blah blah blah.
But it feels different. It feels different now. Even with the big artists, it feels different than it did back then.
Yeah, it's a product now. It feels like a product now. I don't know. I might be just being.
Yeah, it was a point in time that we'll never see again. I'm grateful we were there for it. Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Right, BV is reminding me we need to crack on with the super chai.
Yeah, okay.
Because there are many. I didn't quite get to turn it off in time.
Okay.
Thanks to everyone who super chats. Raf Freitas. Hello, Raf.
Hey, Raf.
Hi, DNM. You delivered, dare I say, the realest Noel interview to date. Possibly ever. The parasocial relationship meter hit 11. E7G sharp, baby. All right, let's do that then. So there's a bit where he's playing Don't Look Back in Anger. Should play this really, shouldn't I? It's not quite the right thing, but anyway, I won't play too much of it in case we get done for copyright. But there's a point after where it goes into the pre-chorus. Songs don't have pre-choruses anymore. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
In fact, a lot of songs don't even have choruses anymore.
Yeah.
They just have endless hooks. Anyway, it resolves onto a G. Hey! Has been hot in here. Actually, he doesn't put the major third in there.
All right.
That is major third, isn't it?
Yeah.
He would play this G.
Nice.
Okay.
Very
got that.
good. Yep.
So top two strings fretted at the 3rd fret, low E string fretted at the 3rd fret, and then the flesh of your middle finger there would dull the A string.
Right.
You can play the D because that's okay. That's a 5th. And then it's 1 fret and 1 finger. Actually, 1 fret. The top 2 strings ring out.
Right.
We play G sharp. Is it G sharp in the key of C?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, this A string is muted.
Right.
The D is open.
Yes. Okay.
Or however it goes thereafter.
Very good.
Chris Buck did a whole video on it.
Well, Chris, I met up with Chris on Wednesday night. Dave Kilminster. I filmed the final part of the show of Dave Kilminster at the O2 when I built his board for the Roger Waters tour. And I got a message from Chris saying, "Hey, I'm coming down tonight. Do you want to have a beer?"
Nice.
So I took Doug down to see Roger Waters, and he helped me film. And Chris was there, and Chris was, he'd already listened to it twice, the interview. He just thought it was wonderful.
Wow.
And he said, "Would you be okay if I made a show on that chord?" I said, "Of course,
okay.
of course.
Yeah.
You go for it, mate. That's great." And like the next day it was out.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He broke it down. He explained it brilliantly. So if you do want to understand the chord and what's behind it, check out Chris Bucks. He did it as his Friday Fretworks. I was amazed at how many comments we had of people going,
the magic chord.
"Oh wow, yeah, I've never been able to play that chord either."
Yeah.
I'd always fudged it, you know.
Yeah.
Just literally, which to be fair is what Noel does. So, because I could never quite hear the what was going on in the rest of the chord.
Right.
He goes. That's what I'd play.
Right. I'd be going.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that.
I don't know what the bass plays.
Yeah. I mean, it's a diminished.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, nice. It was interesting though, because I remember that part of the tune coming up when he was playing it. I'm going, oh, this is going to be fun.
Wonder what the chord is.
Yeah.
Chris Turner, he says, hi. Hello, Chris. He
Hi,
says,
Chris.
hi, I'm having difficulty getting used to my Gretsch 5422. The guitar is fine, but the response is just so different compared to my other guitars. Any advice? I'm yo-yoing a bit today, but I do have one of those guitars, so... I feel your pain, Chris, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Let's have the discussion in the comments, and I'll be interested to see who agrees and who disagrees. As the guitar gets more hollow, you get less of that even note versus sustain of an electric guitar,
Right.
of a solid body guitar.
Yep.
What you get with a hollow guitar quite often is quite a lot of front of the note, and then electronically anyway, it dies away quite quickly,
Right.
unless it's really loud.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, the envelope of the note is completely different.
Sure.
And I think
That's what you're trying to get
that's
used to.
perhaps what you're discovering. And if you put your normal pedals on, or overdrive, or whatever sound you use, the whole thing just reacts differently. My advice would be, I actually changed the pickups in this because I found them a bit too dull, the last ones. I think there's a spider on me. Oh, it has been.
It's the heat, baby.
This room stays fairly constant though.
While you're tuning up, Thomas Stone Hewer says, I sold Chris Buck his Klon, which Dave Kilminster previously owned. That is mad.
Haven't heard from you from a while, Thomas. Hope you're doing all right, mate. Used to comment a lot. Hope all is good, buddy. Yeah, so I totally feel you, Chris. What I would do is, if you find it that's what's happening, it is just a bit kind of thuddy and dull compared to a solid body electric, is employ some kind of boost. That will do a couple of things. One is it will, because I found the original pickups had a problem with capacitance, so it got dull quite quickly. It will give you a bit, it will get rid of that so the thing stays a bit brighter. You can turn it up a bit more and play a bit softer. So I think where these guitars don't reward you in the way that it would on a Telecaster, for example, is if it doesn't really feel like it's happening and you're digging in, it doesn't really work as well as turning it up a bit and getting a bit of boost going and letting that do the work.
Yeah. That's
So
a really good point.
I would give that a try. I mean, I had some stellar sounds out of the guitar, but even having replaced the pickups, it's still too dull sounding.
Sure.
To me. It doesn't sound like, remember we had the Dwayne Eddy one in?
Yes. Yeah.
When Adam came in from Gretsch, and that was a flipping twang
magic.
monster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's things to try. I could raise it up a bit more and change the pole pieces, but certainly that putting a boost first in line and just getting a bit of extra mumbo and not having to work so hard on the guitar makes a big difference.
Indeed.
And don't be scared of overdrive either.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But this thing, by comparison, this is super bright and incredibly resonant and incredibly alive.
Yeah.
you know, not that you would know from that, but
But if it were plugged in,
if it were, yeah, you would though,
Yeah,
if
you
it
would
were
plug
playing. Hairy Bush Nun.
Please continue. That's got to be an Australian.
Must be.
Yeah.
Good morning, shoes. Oh, what are the general differences in tone one could expect between a semi-hollow, a hollow body, and a solid body, all things being equal?
That was a big part of it.
Yeah.
The that sustain thing, the
What we just talked
transients.
about.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it feels like whenever I pick up a 355, which is the solid block all the way through.
Yeah, 335, 345, and 355 all have the solid block.
It kind of feels like the best of all worlds.
Was designed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of got that right. The telly is a plank and, you know, it does its thing and it's amazing. And obviously I love it. They're, you know, telly being much more direct. The three, what's the completely open one?
30.
The 330.
Casino, same as a casino.
Yeah. For lower volume playing is hard to beat.
Mm.
If you find a nice one, they're quite extraordinary. But to me, a good 355, 335, even a 390.
I think it's about the envelope of the note and then the sustain characteristics. And they are, I mean, it's just so different. It's very direct. It's very mid-range focus with a solid body. I think as the more hollow you get, the more mids are kind of scooped out a bit. And it does start sounding more like an acoustic guitar, unsurprisingly enough. I also think it kills dead the argument that the only thing that makes any difference in a guitar is the pickups. Because the way they react to volume and harmonics and all of that is just so fundamentally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to get one and sort of and understand what it means to you. People have done it. So there are examples of people down the years who've taken a hollow body or a semi-hollow guitar and had immense rock sounds for sure. Mm. But I would say in general, if you like that very thick, mid-range focused, heavy gain, Van Halen into early Vi kind of sound, a hollow body isn't really going to do that.
No.
Similarly, if you want to sound like Wes, a solid body isn't going to do it.
Yeah.
And if you think about how the envelope, the sustain characteristics and everything else of those two extremes of tone are developed, you start to get a feel for it. Listen to some BB, some early BB live at the Regal.
Ah, that album is
you can hear that it's that guitar.
Yeah.
Even though he plays a lot of mid-position, I guess, because it sort of sounds kind of phasey and a little bit mid-position to me, some of it. And again, that's something that a Les Paul just doesn't do in the same way.
Yeah.
So
exactly the same
sorry,
pickups.
I can't be more scientific about it, or we can't be more scientific about it, but it's a completely different envelope and sustain characteristic.
Chris Turner says, that's it. When you dig in, it feels like there's nowhere to go.
Ace. Right, turn it up, Chris.
Yeah, there you go.
And just hang off a bit, and you'll find that will open up dynamic in a way that you hadn't realised yet.
Because you need to adjust your dynamics, your dynamic level that you're used to, because it is such a different thing. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, whenever we use that guitar on the show, I always engage the buffer in the 321. So we use one of Dan's products, the 321 switcher, which takes 3 inputs and outputs 1, and each one has got its own separate buffer and level control. And on that guitar, I always put the buffer on, because it's just not. It just gives it a bit more poke and zing, and that comes from someone who really does everything possible to avoid buffers, but it works for that guitar.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Which is why I suggested the boost, by the way, because that will have one in. Yeah, so I hope that helps, Harry. I think it's a different. The mid-range is a very different proposition in a hollow. The more hollow the guitar gets, and surprise, surprise, it sounds more like an acoustic guitar,
Yeah,
but it never sounds like an acoustic guitar, a flat top acoustic guitar. Never sounds quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
Although interestingly, in some of those old jazz recordings, they used to physically mic the string area of the guitar as well as plug it into an amplifier.
Yeah, right.
To get that.
Yeah, that's cool.
To get that percussive nature. Eagle Ray Rob, hello Rob.
Hey, buddy.
No question, just glad to be among tone peers because gratitude.
Oh, mate, thank you. Bless
Thank you, Rob.
Dear fellow.
That's very kind of you, man. Richard Chester, hello Richard.
Hey,
hello
Richard.
Legends. Huge thanks for the Noel Gallagher episode, bringing me to 1 hour 50 minutes of smiles during what's a tricky time for me at the minute. Thanks also to Dan for the patience with my G3 and Atom questions.
Mate, you're so welcome. It's a real pleasure. And the pleasure was completely ours with Noel. What an experience. I mean, I've known him for a number of years, but you know, he's Noel Gallagher. That he would do that for us because he's a fan of the show. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, I'm still trying to kind of work it out because clearly Noel doesn't need that pedal show for any press, or he can go on any TV show, he can go in any of the giant magazines, he can do stuff.
He was on Hot Ones.
Yeah, was he?
He was on Hot Ones.
It's millions. It's like literally millions of views, and so he doesn't need to do this. So it wasn't purely about PR.
No, he just wanted to do guitars,
and he gave us the flipping crown jewels.
yeah, that was incredible.
I'm still sort of in shock a bit. And very grateful. And to all, not that they'll ever watch this, but to all those people, couldn't have been more helpful the whole way through.
Yeah.
Even when we were trying to get things signed off copyright wise, they could not have been more helpful. And that's
Restores a bit of faith, actually, doesn't it?
well, in 20 some years of dealing with PRs, it's definitely not always the case. Anyway, let's move on. Jonah Livingstone, hello, or Livingston. Hi, Jonah. He says, first time sending you guys a note. Thank you, sir.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you so much for the inspiration over the past 2 years. I'm lucky to be in a band and our collective tone has been vastly improved based on learnings from you guys and the community.
Fantastic.
It's great.
Couldn't be better.
That's just the best. There was at least one and maybe more people commented saying, I haven't really played much in ages and I watched this video, the Noel video, and I just picked up my guitar and played and I loved it.
It's wonderful. So good.
Yes. Steve Mass. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
He says, I've always said that if you want a Strat, you need a Strat. They just have a thing. But now with so many Strat alikes, I'm not so sure. What do you think? Great
Question. If you want a Strat, you need a Strat.
Oh, I don't know. If you, in all budgets, isn't it? So if we start with something like, take Squire out of the equation because that is a Fender, by more or less. Where would we start? Like the English brand Vintage.
Mm.
And years ago, Encore.
Yeah, right.
As similar sort of brand history. Anyway, blah blah. And then we move up through the ranks. Mid-price, we get into all kinds of interesting things. PRS Silver Sky, and then up into the more kind of pocket worrying area. Sir Anderson, etc., etc. There's so many Strat-shaped objects, and it's not a difficult formula.
Yeah.
If all the bits are the same, it's going to sound the same.
Yeah.
Or certainly sound very similar. I find it quite interesting with the PRS Silver Sky in particular, how they have a thing.
Right. Okay.
Like they're either John or Paul or a combination of John Mayer and Paul Reed Smith have made decisions that have placed that in a certain pocket of Strats as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
It doesn't sound like an early one.
Oh, okay.
They sound much more mid-60s to me,
Right.
and with a few other differences. And they've picked a point, and they've said, this is what this is going to be. It's not going
Sure.
to be all things to all people.
Sure.
But yeah, it's brand association, isn't it? I don't know. As we get older and less dumb, I don't want to say wiser, but less dumb.
That's all I can hope for at this stage.
Yeah, you realise that looking for objective differences in these things is folly, really. At the end, it's all motivated understanding. It's what you want. It's what you want to see in it. It's what you want to feel. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not saying that a badly made instrument is the same as a really beautifully made one that's set up nicely and, you know, really speaks to you. That is a different thing, and that is objective.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're saying, you know, if you're taking two guitars that are roughly the same price and they're both set up well and they're both made well and they use the same woods and the same pickups, yeah, micro differences for sure.
Sure.
But to be able to turn around and say that's better than that is a purely subjective opinion at that point. And then you get into consistency. Noel tells the great story of two 1960 ES355s that were one serial number apart, and they could not have been more different.
Mm-hmm.
Modern production methods, CNCing, modern QC and all of that means that that's not quite perhaps as marked as it used to be, but it still happens.
Sure.
You could pick up one custom shop Strat, really love it, and then the next one and not love it. So I would say, Steve, as a rather long-winded answer to the question, that number one, you might be brand loyal, and I definitely am. I can't quite get past a Strat style guitar that doesn't say Fender on the headstock, and that's, you know, I will fully admit that as a bit of motivated cognition. If you're not in that situation and you don't really care, then you just play the guitar that speaks to you.
Mm.
And maybe that's a day of enlightenment that's yet to happen for me.
Sure. I mean, we have had some really wonderful S-type guitars. What's the
that
McMull?
McMull guitar was off. That was just such a fantastic guitar.
Yeah. You know, and there, I was with David Kilminster on Wednesday, and he now has a signature guitar through an Italian company called Paolo
Nutini.
Paolo Nutini guitars, not quite.
Apples and Paolos. Paolo, can you go?
That's very good. Paoletti.
Okay.
Paoletti guitars, and they're basically it's a T body,
Yeah.
with the S
Yeah.
stuff on
That's
them.
always been his thing, hasn't it?
It's always been his thing, and I mean, wow, there were some DG tones that he absolutely nailed, and it was a really beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the guitar that speaks to you is the one,
Absolutely.
I think. Sockfoot says, I was listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan Riviera Paradise again this morning, and you've messed me up, Mick. It's not me. You've messed me up, Mick, when you said that he's playing it wrong. All right, it's not me. It's Dan that says he's playing it wrong. How in the world can you justify that remark? Well, Dan, tell the story about the video.
So, there's a vlog that we'll be putting out, not sure when, but soon. And we quickly filmed with Tim Lurch when he was here. I believe Tim is in the comments, mate. No, I hope you're awesome. And we were talking about Riviera Paradise and the changes. And it's only one section in it, really. I guess what Stevie does is he sits in the one place and plays, which is great, which is fine. The issue is that the chords are moving around him. For me, the issue is the chords are moving around him, and he's chosen not to move with the chords. And for me, in the way, because my ear is really diatonic, it wants to hear the notes that are in the chords. It just does, and it's you know, it's a failing on my part.
No, it's not failing.
But there are sections in that, and specifically when he's playing E over the E flat, that I struggle with.
Yeah. Watch
So-
the video when it comes out
Yeah,
and
yeah.
see what you think.
Yeah.
There's learning, isn't there? Let's take food, for example, food and wine. I've been watching a great series on Amazon, I think, and it's called Drops of God, and it's about
Wine.
wine. And these two people have to compete against each other to win the fortune of this wine collection. And
I've heard about this. Is it really good?
it's good. Well, I don't know about really good, but it's good. And what I hadn't really understood about wine knowledge and wine tasting is that it's basically a game of you learn all the key flavours. So let's say there are, for argument's sake, 250 flavours.
Fruity, smoky, velvety,
No.
chocolatey.
Vanilla, pepper, hibiscus, all the key flavours that exist.
Right.
It's either 200 or 400, something like that.
400 key flavours.
Something like, I can't remember the exact
Wow.
number that wine people have to learn. And you learn them all, and you learn to detect them. And then it becomes, what's the word I'm looking for? A game of where you discount. Oh God, what's the word? Someone will say it in the thing. A game of,
Two halves.
if it's this and this, it can't be that.
Oh, zero-sum game.
No. Someone will say in a minute. But so you look at the colour of the wine, that tells you how old it is.
Okay.
And then if you pick up these three flavours, because you've learnt about wine and you've picked up those three flavours, you know that it can't be that.
Oh, okay.
And those three flavours only exist in this wine.
Process of elimination. Type
Process
thing.
of elimination.
Right, there
It
you
becomes a process of elimination. Now, there might be wines that you're really familiar with that you do know, but anyway, blah, blah, blah. How do we get onto that? Yeah, so, but if you give someone who doesn't understand those flavours a glass of wine with a certain kind of food, they'll go, oh yeah, that's really nice. But someone who's learned that actually to really enjoy this glass of wine, you need to eat this or vice versa, and then you give them some wine that just doesn't go, they're like,
Yeah, right.
I can't, that's not, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And that is how it goes with music, I'm
Sure.
sure. Because
Yeah, it's really interesting.
the fact that anyone at all can listen to Radio 1 means,
We've failed as a society.
well, that there's no learning, that they don't have any knowledge whatsoever about harmonic interest.
Yeah, but you know what? So what's...
I don't always mean Radio 1, I mean Radio 1 at the moment.
Yeah. It is... So I was listening to some Average White Band, and I remember when I was 19 and I was asked to play Cut the Cake in this function band. And I remember listening to it going, what is going on? That intro. And I listened to it the other day, I'm going, and I can hear so clearly all the parts
Yeah.
that the two guitars are doing and how they're playing off each other. And it's like, and when I was 19, I've been playing guitar for years and listening to guitar music for years. And it's like, oh, okay. So it's an ongoing thing. It's you never stop learning.
No.
You never stop developing.
I'm a long way behind Dan in all of that, and I just can't hear stuff. I was trying to work out some stuff at the weekend, and I was
there's stuff that you can hear that's eerie.
I can hear production stuff. I can hear frequencies and all that, and that's a different thing. But if it's given that I've got a musical question for you in a minute, Dan. But given that all the same chord, the same bunch of notes can be 8 different chords,
Yeah.
that's why I struggle to understand it. And then I have to Google it or go onto YouTube and see how it's played, and then I understand it. My question is, anyway, so I think that's why it is. I think that's Riviera Paradise doesn't sound wrong to me either, but it sounds really wrong to Dan and to Tim Lurch. Right. Tangent. I got really, really, really bogged down in this
Okay.
because I'm trying to work out extensions for chords, right?
Okay. Yep.
So if we look at the, we're going to do this show on funk tomorrow, and the first chord we're going to look at is the 9 chord, right?
Dominant 9 chord. Yep.
With a 13 extension.
Yes.
So that's good.
Yep.
I can work that out. So then I'm trying to work out, and it's a 13 extension because what key is that in?
You're in E flat there.
Yeah. I'm going to get out of E flat because I need to start on the bottom string.
Right.
If we're going to talk about how we work out the intervals in our chords, it's all off the major scale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was going, this should be 16, but it's 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then I'm like, there's no 10. There is no 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Why not?
So
Because it's the major third.
10. Yeah.
But we don't refer to it as 10.
No, we don't.
Why not? And then there's no 12. Why can there be 3 and 2, but why can't there be 10?
Because extensions. Right.
Only go up to 7.
No. So we've got 1. We go.
Oh, sorry. The main chord only goes up to 7.
Right. The main. Well, yeah, but if you're building up a chord, you're going up in thirds.
Yeah.
Right. So 1, 3, up a third, 5, up a third, 7, up a third, 9, up a third. Generally, we go up to a sharp 11 because or you could have a sus 11, and then up a third again, 13. So when we're building extensions, we're talking about building blocks of thirds. If you like, I mean, you can. I've heard it called a 10 before.
Have you?
Which just means that it's the major third up an octave.
Yeah, because if we're in A, for example, our major third is here at the 4th fret on the A string, and that's just horrible. Like you get in the G chord, it's horrible. What you want to hear is that. So because it's... So anyway, so I'm tying myself in knots going, well, is that a 13? Is it 11? Is it a 12? And
All you got to do, if you have upper extensions, take away 7, and that'll tell you what the note is. So for 13, take away 7.
it's so arbitrary.
It's the 6th. So if I'm in the key of A, the 13 ends up being the F sharp. So that will be...
Yeah, and then, so then if you're playing a chord, like, let's just pick a chord, right? Which is what you just played.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what the root note of that chord is it that or is it this? And then
that's the beauty.
All those notes are now not what they were. And that's so I can hear the chord and I can hear the relationship and I can hear. Now I don't have synesthesia, but I hear that chord as an emotion, and that as an emotion. I cannot hear it as
intervals,
as numbers.
Yeah, well, that's great.
So I know what it makes me feel like.
Yeah, that's a gift.
But I can't, and I'm trying to work backwards, and I'm just doing my nutting. Like, so what was I playing? The Hendrix chord, which is a sharp
7 sharp 9.
7 sharp 9, right? So, and it's the first chord of. Pick up the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the chord in Flashlight by
Parliament.
Yeah, or Funkadelic or whatever
yeah,
they were. And then they go to, and it just took me ages to work out that's an F7.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I'm going, I don't even know what the root note is, and so therefore, if I don't even know what the root note is, how the hell do I know what the? Anyway, it's doing my nutting.
Okay. There's a couple of shortcuts.
At this point in my life, I
You're
don't need
done.
shortcuts.
Okay.
I need to start from the beginning.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry everyone. But sorry, as an extremely long tangent, 5 years ago, I would have had no idea about 11s and 13s, and that's how chords were made.
Sure.
So with 5 years more learning, I listen to it in a record and I'm like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah,
instead of the fudge that I've been playing for the last 25 years.
Okay, yeah, because you hear that you recognise the spice,
Yeah.
the colour.
I can play it. I just don't know what it is.
That's okay.
And it's anyway. Sorry, everyone. Yes, Nigel Barnes says 10th or 12th being the major third and the perfect fifth. Regardless of where they appear in the chord, they're always referred to as the major third and the fifth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all that's doing is implying a voicing, you know.
Yeah. You're skipping too much theory knowledge, says Dave Clark. I know, David, I know. I've got to start from the beginner. That's what I've got to do. Yeah. Oh, no. It is nice to play the right chords, though.
It is.
That is a new realisation. Circle right back around to Riviera Paradise. Once you've heard it the way Dan hears it, you cannot unhear it. I haven't heard it wrong yet, so...
Do you know what's really interesting about the E7 sharp 9 chord?
Yeah.
Was it?
Half diminished?
No.
That was just a guess.
It has a major and a minor third in it.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, major, minor, and you get this.
Yeah, nice.
And that's...
Tension.
Yeah.
It's the Mary Had a Little Lamb chord, if you're interested.
Yeah, but that's sort of the altered scale thing that all happens after that. But yeah, that's I always find that chord really interesting.
Bev's saying,
get up with it, you guys gotta keep going.
I have got a life. He says there's no 8. There is no 8. It's not 8. That's why you can't end on 15.
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1.
Yeah. Thanks, Bev. I got to that realisation, actually. He says, don't want to be a nuisance, but there are a ton of super chats. Right. Ready?
Yep.
Let's go.
Big breath.
Right, let's go.
Okay.
We're gonna pick up the pace. Pick up the paces. Dan Herbert, he says, Paris 2009. I was on my way to a festival to see Oasis for the first time after more than a decade of having my mind blown. Alas, great interview with Noel Gallagher. Super great show. Thank you for all you do.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Justin Baylog, it's New Guitar Day. I picked up an original Gibson Lucille in cherry red. Oh, wow. That's the BB King guitar. It's the version with stereo outputs. Have you ever built a stereo or dual mono rig with the split at the guitar? Thanks for all you do. We have been asked about that in the past. Most people I know have it rewired for mono. Sorry, don't want to burst any bubbles there, Jason, but Justin. But they do. I suppose it's worth investigating, isn't it?
The closest I've come is I had one of those little submarine pickups that I put on my acoustic just for the E and A strings, and I put that through an octave pedal into the PA.
So the pickup split, is that what the stereo bit is? One goes left, one goes right.
Yes, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can have a neck pickup and a bridge pickup split. You can have the bass strings and the treble strings split.
Not in a
Gibson.
Not in a PAF, you can't.
No, not in a PAF, but in a stereo guitar,
yeah, you
can have, they've got like staggered pickups.
Yeah, well, there was hexaphonic, wasn't there?
Exactly.
So you could have the 6 outputs.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I suppose if I've understood it right, and one pickup goes one way and one goes the other, then I guess you could optimize the rig for the key frequencies they put out. Yeah, maybe we should have a look at that. Nice to hear from you, Justin. I met up with Justin in at NAMM, which was good.
Great.
Ethan Kaplan. Hi, Ethan.
Hi,
says,
Ethan.
Mick, when Noel was playing Don't Look Back in Anger, you seemed elated when he played the pre-chorus. Was that because he wanted the confirmation of the chord after the G? Yes, it was, Ethan, and we showed you what that chord was earlier. But yeah, probably like a lot of people, I've been playing that song in covers bands for years and never really knew what the chord was. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't have taken long to work it out. Could have Googled it, but sometimes life's too short.
Indeed.
So it was nice to see the man himself do it. And Ethan also says, how did it feel playing his 355? Could you tell a big difference in the neck as Noel suggested?
The whole thing was a bit overwhelming, to be honest. It just felt beautiful. But, we were there plugged into his Nebworth rig, through his board, playing that guitar in his studio.
Part of his Nebworth rig.
Yeah.
There was quite a few more amps on
Yeah,
stage.
but you know what I mean? It was like...
Yeah, it was a good deal thinner than my 335 by a long, long way. Just much more shapely and actually really comfortable. I'm not a big fan of tiny, tiny necks. That's one reason Transit Van doesn't get more of an outing. The neck's just too small for me. But I didn't feel like it was too small.
No.
So...
No, I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. I think the way it went with Gibson was 58 they were a bit bigger, 59 they got a bit more manageable, and then 60 onwards they got slimmer for a bit.
Right. Okay.
Not Fender kind of went the other way. They get bigger through, certainly Strats anyway, get bigger through 60, 61, 62, 63.
Right.
In general. But yeah, flipping great guitar. What struck me about the guitar, regardless of the neck shape, was just how resonant the thing was.
Yeah, it was amazing. When he stood there just doing that feedback thing, it was just perfect.
And it wasn't purely about volume. I guess we were somewhere around the same volume as that we would play in here, albeit Noel's room was a bit more lively sounding than this one, so you got a bit more room vibe going on, which was really nice.
Lovely.
Michael Giliberto, hi Michael. He says, hi all in TPS world. I've rediscovered how good a 5E3 in brackets clone sounds. Expanded tonal palette with a couple of pedals in front. Happy sounds. Thanks again for the inspiration and camaraderie.
That's a Tweed Deluxe.
Correct.
And anyone's wondering, that sort of circuit, which is really great. Really great, yeah. I remember when I've got the Laser J20 and just cranking that thing for a while. It's such a wonderful sounding, feeling rig, But they can get loud.
Yeah.
When you turn them up like that.
They've just got that really amazing sweet spot.
Yeah. And they sound, especially with humbuckers, when you turn them up like that.
I have to say I prefer them with humbuckers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find them a little bit hard work with single coils unless they're cranked and it's a telly. Strat, I always find I want
a bit more
tube screamer or something to fatten it out a bit. But with humbuckers, man, such a great sound.
Yeah.
If you're not sure about what a Tweed Deluxe sounds like with humbucker guitar, call up Vintage Trouble on iTunes and listen to a song called You Better Believe It. You Better Believe It by Vintage Trouble. Guitar player's called Nalle Colt, and that to me is the quintessential Les Paul into a Tweed style Deluxe.
Neil Young. Yeah, I've listened to some of that as well.
Yeah, that's a Tweed Deluxe dying.
Yeah.
Which is a slightly different thing, isn't it? No less awesome, but yeah. Rodrigo Gaspari. Hello, Rodrigo. He says, I was a Wonderwall snob. I never learned it because it was what everyone else played. But after watching the show, I picked up the guitar, opened up Ultimate Guitar, sorry Mick, and learned and played it and sang it to myself. It made me feel things. Oh, don't apologise to me, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Again, I know that we're fizzy after meeting him and everything, but I think it was that weekend I had an open mic type gig, and I did Half the World Away.
Oh, lovely.
And I flipping love singing it, and everyone sang along, and it was like, I've never done that song before. It was really, it was a moment,
That's awesome.
So yeah, I was snobby about, I have to admit to being snobby about Oasis and Noel in my younger days.
Right.
Because I think about the kind of stuff that people on guitar magazines were probably into. Certainly I was into virtuosic players, which is not to deride anyone. And it is a false dichotomy to say simple is not as good or complex is better, or the two can't coexist and be equally amazing. I think as you grow up, you start to understand, or at least as I grew up and matured a bit and was less defensive about things and had less of a kind of position on it, defending one's ego really, rather than actually just being able to freely enjoy something for the sake of it.
Yeah.
When you let all that go, you
Yeah,
can
sure.
appreciate the magic of complex, simple, of all of it.
Yeah.
If it creates a human connection, it's magic.
Totally. You've also got a different level of experience as well.
Yeah.
You've got a different energy, and there are, there are times in my life, where I remember things, and I remember a specific music that sort of anchors me to that point. And, the older I get, the more I have those anchor points, and the more that a specific song means something else,
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are sometimes it is just someone playing a beautiful note can move me to tears, as we've all seen.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened when I was a kid. Certainly not to that extent. I've always been moved by music, but I think as you have these different experiences and you attach different emotions to different musical happenings, as it were, it's, especially if you're into music the way that we're all into music, you know what I mean? Because it is such an emotional connection. It is, for me, it is the closest thing in the world that we have to magic. It is that one thing that can just cut right through. I just think it's flipping incredible.
It is the flow of conscious presence, Dan, is what it is.
That's what it is. It's the flow of conscious presence.
That's
what I meant to say.
And the absolute elimination of psychological time. It is perfectly the moment.
Right. There you go.
And that's why it's so flipping brilliant.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm with you, Rodrigo. I'm glad that we can all sort of... I'm glad that it's great to be wrong and not be worried about it. And okay, I was wrong about that. Or not even wrong, I couldn't see it.
Sure. Yeah.
I couldn't see it.
There you go.
Yeah. Jason Sears says, I hope you get the chance to do a digital show with Rabia. I've been a tube head for over 30 years, but shocked by the feel and sound of the Quad Cortex into a Fryette power station with a good cab. Yeah, I've been thinking about it because I was sort of surprised he didn't bring it actually when he came in. I'm kind of interested. What we didn't film, which I don't know, it was after we'd packed down and everything. Rabia wanted to hear the CXM 78 Chase Bliss Meris reverb, which Dan and I both love. So I plugged him into my rig.
He's never on hearing that.
It was biblical. It was absolutely biblical. And I'm sorry we didn't record it, but I don't think we could have recorded it.
I think what's very interesting is that level of dynamic in your rig, and when there's a compression thing that has to happen with those sorts of and I think it's something that you get used to. And he came out from playing the two-rock thing, and something had...
fundamentally.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about the two-rock. It was going through the Mesa 5050 and the Giant 412 fully wet, dry, wet insanity. And again, not to flipping bash the coconut or whatever the phrase is, but gild the lily. No, what's the phrase? Go over old ground. Chestnut. Go over old chestnuts. Anyway, whatever. I knew it had something to do with nuts. There is just no way that can happen digitally in the room environment in which you are in. There's barely a tube amp that could come anywhere near that rig. Any tube amp you can mention.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting part is once you record it,
it's a whole
It's a
different
whole
thing.
different game. Once you
Yeah.
listen to it in IEMs or in headphones, it's a whole different game. But sat here in the room, it's just... And I don't want to put Rabia in that position, or anybody else in that position for that matter,
Sure.
of going, because it's not fair.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair, and I don't want it to be like a witch hunt of us going, see, told you so.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced more than ever that it's so far away as the physical experience in the space. But then it's a bit of a challenging statement, isn't it? Because now someone's going to go, "We'll prove it," and I'm like,
You know, the thing for me
I don't know what to say about it anymore.
Yeah, the thing for me is, if you're going to have a cab and a power amp and that stuff, it's like, I might as well have an amp.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it that if you don't have a Dumble clone and a deluxe reverb and a matchless and then the Quad Cortex totally gives you access to some of the feel of that stuff.
Sure.
And that for that point, it makes absolute and complete
It was
sense.
really interesting, actually, Rabia telling us how they go through the capture stuff. It was like, wow, that's, really interesting.
But for me, I don't want all that stuff.
No.
I want one perfect sound, not 60 okay sounds.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
Anyway, we'll go around it a million times, won't we? But anyway, all of which is to say, we really want to do that show with Rabia. We've just got to figure out a way of doing it that is not about... It's not about a this or that. It's
not
more
about a position.
about the benefits and the kind of... This is why it's great. Not, yeah, but it doesn't sound like that, does it?
Yeah, sure.
If anyone's in any doubt about that, you just need to go and get some loud tube amps and go to a rehearsal studio and play loud, and then you'll hear it immediately. But not everyone can play loud anymore, and that's the whole other side of the debate, isn't it?
There you go. Yep.
Oh, God, I keep saying we're not going to talk about this anymore, but we always end up talking about it. John Hubbs. Hello, gents. I've been looking for an intro to the Marshall sound. Thoughts on the Origin heads? Are there better options and brands in that tier? Thank you. The really annoying thing about the Marshall sound, John, is that it's pretty horrible in order for it to be right.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
What do I mean, Dan?
You mean it is that sound that gets us told to turn down all the time, and yet it is that sound that absolutely has to be there for the guitar to go.
Yeah, so if we brought our 50 watt plexi in here now, and we did a couple of videos on this and crank it, there's the first 2 minutes where you go, really? That is a dreadful sound, because it is so glassy, bright, aggressive, noisy, like...
Breaks up uneven and just angular, and yeah.
And that's another example of, in the room, it's so aggressive, you're like, really? And then when you hear it recorded, it's like, oh, okay. All that stuff, all the histrionic, all the ugly, starts to become this glue, which really works, A, when you record, and B, when you put it in a track. Which is to say, I think a lot of the popular, more modern Marshall-alikes, Friedmans especially, knock all those edges off. The more you up the gain, the more smooth it sounds, the more together it sounds, and can be a significantly more pleasing experience when you're stood there next to it. Because it's fatter and fuller and thicker and sounds more like Van Halen on the record, you know?
David Peterson says, ragged glory has to be ragged.
Yeah.
It's very good.
So in terms of your sort of in-room experience at lower volumes, I think there are a lot better options, personally speaking. And Friedman is a really good example of that, and there are others. But, and I dare say Friedman probably makes some more traditional Marshall-y type things as well. I'm not massively au fait with the range these days, but if you want that Marshall sound, it needs to be a Plexi or a JCM 800 or a JMP Master Volume or whatever it is era you're going for turned up, and unfortunately that's out of bounds for most of us. I actually think the Studio Vintage, from what I've heard, because we haven't actually played one, do a good job. It keeps the Marshall kind of family history. Dan often talks about the Vintage Modern series that came out, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Fantastic.
Same sort of thing.
Yeah.
They can sound a bit scratchy and kind of, oh, really? At the beginning. And then once you get them wound up in a band.
Did you ever play the Malmsteen head?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
The Malmsteen head and the AFD were both great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, are they making amps anymore?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard anything from them since the takeover. Let's hope so, hey? Let's hope they will have renewed vigour. So, yeah, I would say the Studio Vintage is a pretty good shout.
Yeah.
I'm sure people in the comments will be offering other alternatives, just to be aware that every time it gets smoother and friendlier and easier and more fun in a low-volume environment at home, you get further away from what makes those crazy things so good.
I've got an email here from Steve at Marshall.
Oh, nice. Was just come in.
No, this is from last year.
Oh.
So he was invited us to go to Marshall.
Oh, okay.
And do Marshall-y things with Marshalls. So I think we should do that. Find out what the crack is.
Yeah.
I'd be really interested. Because they've got the Marshall Museum, and it'd be nice to go down and get au fait.
Yeah, it would, once they're back up and running. Yeah, anyway, blah, blah, blah. Lots of people saying, yeah, Studio Vintage are really good. Yeah, Tad Morrison says, you said it there, Mick. We want our live rig to sound like records. Think about that for a minute and find yourself looking right at the monster in the eyes. Yes, Rick Beato explained it in our interview we did with him about the fact that guitar, amp, and then there's about 10 transformers in between what comes out of that speaker and what ends up getting recorded.
Yeah.
Microphones, pre's, desks, and then heaven forfend before we get into plugins and all that conkers. In the days before plugins, it was outboard gear. And it still is outboard gear in some studios. And it might be outboard gear and plugins. But yeah, trying to get a recorded sound in the room is a challenge. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Arthur Ravida de Oliveira says, guys, which do you think is the best affordable Opticas, which I guess is optical univibe nowadays? The Jam Pedals
Flower.
Yeah, what's it called?
Flower pedal.
Anyway, it's the Jam Pedals one. Vibe, something vibe, innit? I've just put it on my pedal board for tomorrow. Oh,
I'll tell you.
Someone will tell us in a minute. Anyway, it's the Jam Pedals one. That's the one we like the best. The 13th. Oh, I like this one. The 13th.
Retro vibe.
The retro vibe. There you go, from Jam Pedals. The 13th Duke Wyborn says, Jim Lill's video, the one thing every guitar tone has in common, and concludes that all the tone, as you've heard, is through a mic and mixed or recorded or live, says the room is irrelevant. It's not irrelevant if you record the room.
There you go.
And I could prove that categorically. I haven't watched the Jim Lill video. It sends me a bit apoplectically mad. That one I haven't watched. If you put a mic in the room, it makes a colossal difference. If you don't put a mic in the room and you stick the mic right next to the cab, then no, it's going to make a minimal difference. But if we're after a room sound, go and talk to any great producer who records drums and they'll tell you the room is everything on classic records. Maybe not so much these days where you've got loads of plugins and stuff, but they are still using a plugin to emulate the room. So the room does make a difference if you use it. If you don't use it, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Oh. Just chipping in for more Noel-like vids. Epic, says Tegan K. Yeah, we appreciate there's probably about 300,000 people who are going to tune into that pedal show this Friday and go, oh.
This is not what I thought.
It's not what I thought it was. Yeah, we can't do Noel every week, sorry. Noel is the exception, not the rule, I'm sorry to say. But we will, hopefully Noel will open doors to some other artists and we can do that. The other thing was, with that pedal show, we didn't want that pedal show to be leveraged off of other people. We wanted it to be our work.
Yeah.
And interviews are great and we love doing them. We absolutely love doing them and we want to do more. And there's loads of artists yet still to do, but there's more to that pedal show than that. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, if you are new to the channel and you're expecting Noel again on Friday in the form of some other guitar hero, it won't be that. Yeah. Sean Gerolimatos says using the Maiden and Page DS.
Nice.
Any advice with stacking boosts or ODS? I'm experimenting, but interested to know your experience. It depends what you're running them into, Sean. So for those of you who don't know, Kingsley amplifiers make a series of valve pedal preamps. Gets a little bit confusing. The Maiden is a preamp, although I think the latest one can be used as a pedal as well. But anyway, configured to be an actual preamp rather than an overdrive pedal. And if you run a Page DS after it, you basically get both sides of, if you get the Maiden D, which is a Dumble style one, again, Simon changes things quite frequently, but in our case, Dan and I have the Maiden D, and if you run the Page DS after that, you get two sides of the front end of a Dumble overdrive special, basically. What you then run into is crucial. So what I tend to run into is straight into a power amp, a power section. So it doesn't hit another preamp, doesn't go into the front of an amplifier. Or if you've got any amp with an effects loop, you can run it into the effects loop return, such as a Hot Rod Deluxe, for example. It's a great platform for that.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got your preamps as pedals and you've got your power amps in your amp. Now, I wouldn't be running any normal pedals, overdrives, boosts, or anything else after the Page DS.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you've got huge signal coming out of that.
You do.
I would run everything before.
Yep.
Don't put anything in between. Just treat the Maiden and the Page DS as the front end of your amp. So overdrives and boosts really want to be in front of all that stuff. That's how I've had best results.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're careful with the level coming out, delays and things will work. I mean, one of the tricky things about having such a hot signal going out and sort of punching the phase inverter like that is it is tricky to make things work in the effects loop, as it were. But if you're careful about the amount of level that you use, you can make that work.
Yeah, certainly all the things I use, so Free the Tone Delay, CXM 78 Reverb, Source Audio Collider from time to time.
They're all fine.
They're all fine.
Yeah.
Any of the modern digital devices can usually take it.
Sure.
As long as it's got analog drive-through.
Yeah.
They can usually take it, no worries. It's when you get into things like, I would have the Boss Dimension C Wazzer, and that couldn't take it, so that was overdriving. Any analog modulation pedal is going to struggle a bit in that environment. So, yeah, there are some compromises to be made. Yeah. Although that said, Harmonious Monk, I run after my Juggler version 3, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's the Mark II.
Mark II, because it's got more headroom than Mark 1. Yeah. And again, like Dan says, if you don't push the volume too much, Mark 1's fine. So, yeah, it's just something to be aware of rather than a hard no, as it were. But yeah, overdrives and boosts and fuzzes before the Maiden. Enjoy. Enjoy. I still... so Simon has since basically put the Maiden and the Page DS in one box in the Juggler version 3, and that's what I use now. And I use that into the front of my 2-Rock because you can make it pedal volume, and I use it into the Boogie 50/50 power. I use it for everything now.
Yeah, so good.
Zachary Manzanetti. Hello, Zachary.
Hey, Zachary.
He says, hi, DNM. I'm looking for a tone bender for Ronson and Bowie type sounds. Mick Ronson, Dave Bowie. What do you recommend? Hoping for a normal pedal size. Will it need to be first in line like a fuzz face? P.S. Please do a reissue Tritone t-shirt.
So the wonderful thing about the tone bender is it's a 3 transistor fuzz, and the first transistor is actually acts like a buffer in the circuit. So it is a lot more forgiving where you put it in the chain than a normal 2 transistor fuzz face. Saying that though, I would still have it right up the front, if not at the front, because it's, there's still germanium, there is still impedance fun to be had. But look, there are so many amazing ones out. The throwback one is awesome. There is the compressor that you're using on your board.
Yeah, the Union Tube
The Union Tube transistor one is just wonderful.
This one. It's called the Snap. Oh no, that's not it.
That's not it.
There's another one somewhere.
Yeah.
What's it called? Tour Bender.
The tool bender is just glorious.
It's this brand, but it's called a Tour Bender.
Oh, and there's this one here.
They make great stuff. They make really, really great stuff.
So, BAE Royal Tone.
Oh yeah, that's really serious.
This is amazing.
Tone benders. There's always the old Actually, you can't get. Can you get these?
No. No.
Yeah. Did Thorpe make any more boneyards?
I don't believe so.
Thorpe Boneyard is excellent.
It's wonderful.
We'll do 3 and 2 transistor fuzzes. Oh, the Reeves one. Again, all this stuff we're talking about is waitlist kind of stuff, unfortunately. But I guess once you've waited.
Oh, these guys.
Oh
True-Fi.
yeah. True-Fi. Really good.
Absolutely.
Check out True-Fi. And finally, there's one that I'm trying to bring to mind that I'm struggling
The
with.
Zozo.
Who was the guy with the moustache that was in the band? And you loved it.
Freddie. Fu Manchu.
Yeah, him.
Yes.
Come on,
Yeah.
guy with the moustache. It's something Fu, isn't it? Fu.
You got to stop thinking about it, and it'll just
I know. Anyway, sorry. David Tompkins and Todd Roy are having a back and forth about Jim Lill. I hope I didn't want to suggest that he's lying, by the way. I didn't want to suggest that he's trolling or lying. I'm suggesting that it is a very myopic opinion on the general subject. There's a lot more questions one could ask, is what I'm saying. When something is presented as a kind of fait accompli when it comes to tone, it's never the full story. It's just a snapshot of the picture. And if you were to put Jim in a room with some producers and people who've been playing for 40 years and had a discussion and filmed it, I think it would end up quite different. So anyway.
A fait accompli.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, they're brilliant videos, super entertaining, brilliantly well made, really great food for thought, all of that. But I think if you take it as gospel, that might be a little bit strong.
Yeah, just add it to the pot.
Yeah, add it to the pot. Perfect. Like a Memphis soul stew. Do. Scott Holiday, Fuzz Lord, says Andreas Johansson. No. Oh, the Bossy Gnome. Yeah, good shout. Eagle Ray Rob. That was a good one. The Bossy Gnome. Creepy Fingers.
Creepy Fingers.
David
Thank
Rustad,
you.
Zero Amplication. So whoever was asking about the Tone Bender,
Creepy Fingers.
Creepy
one.
Fingers.
Awesome.
That was one of Dan's
Yeah.
absolute
Yeah,
favourites.
it's incredible.
Yeah. And don't forget to check out the source of all of that as well, which would be Macari's
Colour sound.
Colour Sound. Yeah. They get custom builds done by various people. And Marcus Reeves. Have we said Marcus Reeves yet? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. Hopefully there'll be something in there. Hey Mick, Paul Stacey was off by 1 hour, says Rodrigo Gaspari. Has Paul joined us tonight? Is that what that is? If so, hi Paul. Bill J, planning a US trip to chill and watch live music. I'm not a big country music fan, but blues, jazz and rock. Should I go to Nashville, Austin or New Orleans?
Wow. Nashville, Austin, or I haven't been to any of those. You've been to all of those, right?
I haven't been to New Orleans.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of people that would say go to New Orleans. Nashville is quite country, but like there's so much music in Nashville. There's everything. Austin is. I don't know. I don't know enough. I'm afraid. I had the best time in Austin.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that where
Stevie Ray Vaughan is from, and Collins Guitars.
Collins Guitars, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah, I would say if you're gonna, you got to go to Nashville. You have to go to Nashville because you just won't believe it. Walking up and down that street where all the bars and music, you just won't believe it. It's beyond belief. And I suspect New Orleans is the same, but I've never been there, so I can't say. People in the comments, please chip in if you know those cities. Mike2203. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
He says, hi, DMC and R. The Noel Gallagher interview was enthralling. Could you put out a part 2 with all the edits, please? We left it all in. We cut basically nothing.
Yeah, cut very little.
True story. We cut pretty much nothing. I'm trying to think what if anything got cut. I don't think anything was cut.
No.
I don't think anything was cut, actually. I mean,
Wow.
Obviously we cut around to make it work with the playing and all that at the beginning, at the end, but that was everything else was pretty much as it happened. So yeah, there was no cutting room floor. Albus Band, Aaron, hey man.
G'day,
he says, my dudes, love that you were sure you wanted to sit in front of the Wem Marshall. Love that Mick checked the chord and raised a fist. Love you. If you could play one Oasis song live with them, which one would it be?
Oh, boy. Champagne Supernova probably for me.
Yeah, that's a nice shout. I would say Live Forever or Don't Look Back in Anger.
Mm.
I don't know, there's so many, aren't there?
Wonderwall. I only wrote Flippin' Wonderwall.
Eagle Ray Rob, what speakers were in Noel's Wem amp? Oh, I'm sorry, Rob, we didn't check. Be interesting if it was the original one. I can't imagine the original one would have survived.
I don't know.
You never know.
Well, that rig hadn't been out for 30 years, and I'm sure it was the original one. It must be the original one.
Yeah, I'm afraid we don't.
Because he paid 50 quid for it
Yeah,
and took it straight to the studio.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the original one.
Yeah, we're going to say the original one. We don't have any evidence to the contrary. So, David Rustad. I haven't just played some chords in a long time. I played Don't Look Back in Anger all week and weekend. Love to y'all and Noel.
Oh, bless you, mate.
It's funny, a lot of people said it in the comments, just watching him strum through those chords and his particular touch to the guitar. He's not a hitter, very considered.
Yeah.
Dan and I
so considered.
we were lucky enough to go to a filming of Jules Holland, the TV show on British telly. And they're doing a Noel special. I don't think it's aired yet, but the series is now, so it must be about to air. And the band played a live set. They played 8 songs, I think, or 9 songs, something like that. And just watching him, because it was a full-on, raucous, loud gig.
Yep. String section and everything.
Even though it was being filmed for telly. And his control in that environment is something else.
It's his confidence is a force.
Yeah.
And
he just played everything perfectly.
Perfect.
And for all that, there were a few nasty comments over the weekend, people sort of deriding him as a musical Neanderthal and a rubbish guitar player. I defy you to stand on stage and do that. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can only do it if you've done it a lot. It's a different game. It's like, I use this analogy a lot. It's like driving a Formula One car. We can all drive up and down the motorway into the supermarket. You cannot drive a Formula One car around a track.
So Dave Kilminster, as part of the interview, I'm saying, how do you prepare for a gig like this? They're in the Guinness Book of World Records for like one of the largest grossing tours of all time.
Nice.
Right? And I'm like, how do you prepare? He says, you can't. He says, the fact is, he says, playing this, he said, it's one of the easiest things in the world to play. He said, now you play it in front of 200,000 people.
Yeah.
And it becomes the hardest thing in the world to do. And it says, you can't prepare for it. You just got to go and do it.
Just got to do it.
Amazing.
I mean, neither Dan nor I have done any gigs that are anywhere near that, but we've probably both done a few thousand in our lives, a few thousand people in a gig, and that is it's a different. If you've done it, you know it. It's a completely different game.
It really is.
I don't think you ever quite get used to it. I mean, I don't do those gigs very regularly, and I don't suppose we'll ever do any more. But they are, it's a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
David Peterson. Hello, David. Just got a Fender Custom Shop 1965 Strat.
Nice.
The vintage style pickups sound great, but have a different character than the modern Strat I'm used to. Any tips or tricks on setup, style, pedals, and EQ? Thanks. There's a lot going on here, David. So I don't know much about modern Strats in terms of standards and things like that, which use the whatever it is pickups they use now. Various iterations of noiseless, this and that. So I can't really comment on that. What I can tell you about 65 as opposed to the earlier 60s guitars is they do have a different sort of mid-range and attack. Various things to do with the diameter of the magnets, the magnet material, the wire, the potting, they had a specific sound to them, the mid-60s ones. So it might just be that you're not all over that. You might like the guitar, but you might find that pickup style doesn't really suit. In which case you could very easily swap the pickups to a late 50s, early 60s style set, which would have a different magnet type, dimensions and wire type, and it does make a massively significant difference. Said this before a lot, but if you think about the people who like the mid-60s Strats and like that kind of, I always think of it as a more wiry sound.
Right.
Robert Cray. Well, interestingly enough, Doyle Bramall, 64. I don't know about that, but anyway, Robert Cray. John Mayer, he likes that kind of more sort of present sound, and bear in mind he fills it all back in with a mid-boosted overdrive or a Dumble. Earlier 60s sounds, to me, rounder, softer, deeper bass, higher airy treble. Whereas for me, the mid-60s sound is more kind of in the middle, present, punchy, all that. So if that rings any bells and that makes sense to you, it might be that an older pickup style set would work. Failing that, of course, an EQ pedal would make a massive difference. You could look at the frequencies, kind of 3 to 6K, and get rid of some of that. Maybe. It's tough because the 70 Strat that I have, it's the end of that, so it still has a similar sort of tonal character, but they're a bit weaker, and the guitar needs much more help from the amp and stuff. And when you do that, it's a totally glorious thing.
It's incredible.
But it's not as sort of rich and as thick and as nice, for want of a better word, sounding as the old one. So it might be that a pickup swap would be in order. Do experiment with the heights of the pickups as well. And you could go online and read, or you could just forget that and adjust them up and down and see what you like.
Yeah, and also depends, rig dependent and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without knowing what the character of the modern Strat is, I'm going to guess that it's a bit thinner and more wiry is what I'm going to guess, and that's kind of what they sound like.
Right.
So,
Chris Quinn has commented. Says, Johnny Marr said being on stage with Noel's guitar sound is like standing on the sun. I love that. That's great.
Hello, gents, and congratulations on the Noel interview, says Kristen Abbott. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen.
That's very kind. Tad Morrison says thanks. No question. Thank you very much, Tad. That's
Thanks,
very
Tad.
kind of you. Jim B. Noel's story about tracking Wonderwall blew my mind. Thanks, from a rainy Akron, Ohio. Yeah, that was... If you didn't catch it, he explains how on the second record, or at least on What's the Story, that was the second record, wasn't it? The first record, they all kind of played together. The second record, Noel had all the songs in his head, and they were all done, him sat there with a guitar, just playing straight through, and then the engineer-producer would manipulate the click track
To match his
to
playing.
sort of match Noel.
No,
So
amazing.
starts here, gets a bit faster in the middle, tails off again at the end. So it has a sort of natural meter.
Yeah. So all of that feel and time is Noel.
Yeah.
And everyone's playing to him. Kind of a bit Keith Richards-y.
Yeah.
It's a really, really fascinating way to do it. So Noel was saying that, what's Definitely Maybe was the only time they ever recorded all in a room together.
Yeah.
And what was fascinating about that is that Mick and I heard the live tape. They'd rediscovered the live tapes and the mics from the room, and they just soloed the mics in the room, and it's better than some band mixes I've heard. Live vocals.
Yeah, it was nuts.
It was incredible.
Yeah, I don't know if they... I mean, one would assume if you're going to get those out and do work on them, you're going to be thinking about releasing them, but I don't know. They were tapes that they thought had been thrown away, but they hadn't been thrown away.
They found them, and yes,
Yeah.
truly wonderful.
I mean, we were listening to them through some 80 grand ATCs, some awesome mono blocks, and a pretty serious desk.
Yeah, that's true. But it was, they just sounded like a band, like a proper amazing band.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
They really did.
Really great.
They really did. Scott Pickett. Scott Pickett has superchied, but has not questions. Let's see. See if BV... no, you've asked. Thank you, BV, but it's not there. Yeah, no reply yet. Okay, and let's just see if we have any more.
Brett Lyons says, Dan, do you still have the Yamaha THR-10? Your video about home use amps was what sold me on it. Comes today in the mail, and I can't wait. Yes, Brian, I have got two of them.
Yeah.
I've got one here and I've got one at home, and they're wonderful things. The one at home my daughter uses more than me. I've got my ISO cab set up, and I use that quite a bit. But the Boss headphones, Waza Air headphones, I probably use more than anything. But the Yamaha THR-10 is a really fantastic, really fun, so easy to dial in a sound that, because it's stereo, it just sounds lovely. Yeah, great. You have a lot of fun with it, mate.
And so I stopped. Tony, hi Tony, nice to hear
Tony.
from you. He says EOB defected to some unknown channel. Great vid, Dan. What happened?
I did a board build with Ed,
Oh, nice.
and it was very. So what that vid was sort of very gig rig centric, and so I put it up on the gig rig channel. But that was just the building of the board, and going through stuff with the power and everything. But what's going to happen is once Ed has used the board and recorded it and stuff, is invited Mick and myself to his studio to go and see how he does what he does.
Well, that's going to suck.
That's going to, yeah, it'll be pretty amazing. Yeah, pretty amazing.
Oh, man.
He is such a beautiful human.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so there we go. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that. That was, building a board for Ed is, I mean, wow. Could you, if you'd gone back in time and told this little kid from Brisbane, this is a massive Radiohead fan, one day
You'll be in the room.
you'll be in the room with Ed, building his rig. And
it's pretty trippy.
yeah, it's really, really amazing.
It is pretty trippy. It is pretty trippy. Well, we've managed to do the
Super Chai.
Super Chais, which
Fantastic.
is good. Stephen Butler says, if you could choose one of Noel's guitars, which one would you pick?
He had a pretty amazing Esquire in there.
Yeah, what was that, like a 50... Was it? I can't even remember if it was a maple necker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be like 58,
Yeah.
57, something
That's
like that.
pretty crazy. But I mean, how could you go past that 355?
Yeah, no, that would be it for me.
It just
100%.
Yeah.
I've been looking at 345s because I actually prefer the 345 to the 355 because of the split parallelogram inlays.
Oh, really?
It's got everything else.
Okay.
Well, maybe not quite so much headstock binding, but they're so beautiful. They're so beautiful. I never used to like blingy guitars, so all my guitars are like the base model.
Right.
So my 335 is the base model. It's,
Sure. Okay.
no neck binding. That's how they did them in 58. Dot markers. My PRS dot markers. No birds. Strats. Well, yeah, all right, maybe a custom color here and then, but no bling. But I don't know. I'm starting to enjoy blingy guitars a bit more. The Gretsch, maybe. I suppose that's a bit blingy. Gold top. Les Paul gold top over a burst for me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Sure.
But
yeah, I'd tell you what. I've been spending a bit of time with my Lester lately, and there's something scrappy about a Telecaster, which I really like. But when I play the Les Paul, it feels grown up. Does that make sense?
feels like you got a suit on.
It's like, oh, this is a proper,
Yeah.
I mean, these things feel like you can just throw them around, and I do, and they're great.
Yeah.
The Lester's kind of a bit more.
The last 3 or 4 gigs I've done, I've played at least half of it on the gold top
Yeah, but that's
and enjoyed it.
You can't
all night.
You
Well,
can't
half the night.
compare that guitar to a normal Les Paul.
Oh, I don't.
You can't.
It is pretty special. But
Yeah, you absolutely.
to put some context on that, it's quite a lot lighter sounding than a lot of standards. So it's more like a telly on steroids than it is a fat, thick sounding Les Paul. Now, a lot of people really wouldn't like that because they like the fat, thick sounding Les Paul. I like them lighter, and it does sound like a telly on steroids.
Yeah, yeah, it's astonishing, absolutely astonishing.
Steve L says, shout out to the work you put into the audio, Mick. Every second is worth it. Best sounding show on YouTube. Steve, thank you kindly. I have to say that the work that's done here with nice amps, pedal boards, quiet power, uncompromising signal chains, very nice microphones, nice mic pre's, does make it all infinitely easier. I'm now in the proud position of saying I have done a lot of recording. And the more you compromise on any one of those stages, the harder it is.
Yeah,
Always
really
the harder it is
interesting.
when you get to the mix stage. And bearing in mind, we're not mixing records, we're just mixing the sound of guitars in a room, and that is much easier. It was very easy at Noel's because Callum, who is Noel's tech, mic'd everything up and ran it through, partly through their, I think it might have been an SSL main console, but also through some of the old EMI desk.
Yeah, the channels in it.
The EQs were being used in the EMI desk. That's why the Noel thing sounded pretty decent. And he close mic'd everything at the beginning, and I sort of sheepishly said, do you mind if we put a couple room mics up? And he brings out these 2 Coles, you know, this is just beautiful microphones, and sets them in an XY at the back of the room, and quite a bit of that mix you hear in the Noel video is room mic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Room
doesn't make a difference. Shut up.
Yeah, shout out to Callum.
It makes a massive difference.
He was wonderful. I mean, look, you know, massive shout out to Paul Stacey, because if it wasn't for Paul introducing me to Noel in the first place, none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just this is how it happens.
It all just fell into place, didn't it? And we were lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, which is, we're very grateful. Little Dave, hi, Little Dave says, was there another Strat there that Noel said had some good stories behind it? Yeah, there was an Edge signature Strat, which I didn't even know existed. Basically a black Strat with a maple neck and a big headstock. So like the one you see him playing. And he really likes that guitar. In fact, he played that at the Jules Holland thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I think he did. Or it was there, whether he played it or not, or whether Gem played it. It was there anyway, because I remember going, oh, that's that guitar.
Yeah.
Maybe Gem played it, can't remember.
This is a really interesting comment. And a few people have said this. Someone called Lord Pix 31 says about Noel, it's simple stuff to play, but you can appreciate his songwriting skill, and 100% you can tell it's him playing. He's got a very unique way he makes it sound. And it's so true. As soon as he starts to play, it's like, there is no mistaking who's playing that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like when you're saying before, how everything is so considered, he has, and he says in the video, he's worked so hard on the way that he strums is not accidental.
No, God, no.
You know, every note, every accent is considered.
Yeah.
Because it's important to him.
Yeah. It's it's craft and it's art.
Yeah.
And
it's still the reason he gets up in the morning.
Yeah.
He still loves it.
He was so genuine when you asked him that question, and he was like, it's why I get up in the morning. And he was so genuine in his answer.
This is really funny moment a few years ago on Radio 2 when Jules Holland was had been on the day before, and the following day it was Elton John, and the presenter says to Elton John, he says, so this is Radio 2 about 8:15 in the morning, right? Like prime time. Elton John's on there, and the presenter says to Elton, he goes, I was speaking to Jules Holland yesterday, and Jules says that he doesn't feel alive and awake. He doesn't feel his day can start until he gets up and plays the piano. He says to Elton, do you feel like that? And Elton goes, for F's sake, I couldn't think of anything worse. And the guy's going, all the girls and boys on the way to school, I'm really sorry. Really sorry about that. Oh, it's so funny.
It's interesting with performers like that, isn't it? Like I get the feeling with Noel, you sit and have a chat with him and you watch him on stage and he's the same guy.
Yeah.
And he sings a song like Half the World Away and he's the same guy.
Yeah.
And if you went round and had an organic meal with him, he said his mum came round and she said, Noel, have you got any non-organic food? Anyway, he's the same guy. I think with people like Elton John, and I know this from having met a megastar or two down the years and been around people that have, I'm pretty sure Elton puts Elton on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So when he gets up in the morning, he's Reg Dwight and he has his dippy eggs and listens to the Archers, and then when he goes on stage, he sort of puts on Elton John, and I think that's probably what he's talking about.
Yeah. So I'll finish with a quick Noel story.
Great.
Right. Years ago, when Noel was recording Who Built the Moon, he'd finished recording that album, And he calls me and he says, the board was great in the studio. Absolutely loved it. He said, I built it so that he could take pedals in and out really easily and just dial up a sound quickly. He called me and he said, it's we've swapped loads of things in and out. Would you mind coming over to my house and sorting the board out for me? Because I want to keep playing with it. I said, yeah, no problem. So I went over to his house in London and, he makes me a cup of tea and we sit in his little music room and I'm putting his board together for him and he's telling me, how Oasis got their name and, all the stuff which was fascinating. It's named after the Oasis Leisure Centre in Swindon. And we're just chatting and then I get the board together for him and he's asked me to put a couple of different things on there and we've got the board plugged into a little black panel. No, it wasn't. It was a silver panel. The reissue
custom Vibrolux.
Yeah, it's a little one. Anyway, we're there, and I'm manipulating these pedals because no one wants to have a play and see what these things can do. And I'm basically DJing the pedal board, right, while Noel is playing. We were there for an hour while he was playing, and I would turn a knob, and he'd turn left.
Yeah, wow. Just playing off the
just
sounds.
Playing off the sounds.
Yeah,
it was truly incredible. But then,
why didn't you video it, Dan?
So that happened. It was really great. Walk outside. I sit in my car and turn the radio on. And on the news is the Oasis movie was launched today.
Oh, wow.
And we're at the premiere and everyone's wondering where Noel is.
You're like, I know where he is.
And I'm going, I know exactly where he is. But he's like, he wanted to sit down and have a play with his pedal board.
Bless him.
It was amazing.
It is nice when one retains that level of sort of childlike fascination with it, even though you're a global megastar.
Yeah, yeah.
Or so even if you're not.
I just think the world of the guy. He's, and we'll always be grateful that he did that for us.
Charlie King, Mick just had an update. Just an update that the Jason Isbell telly is still in favour and regular gig use, now with a mint guard though. Charlie bought the Jason Isbell telly off me. And Charlie, we did say we were going to start doing videos on viewers and like real humans pedal boards as opposed to me and Dan. And
which just couldn't, and not humans.
We will do it, Charlie. We will do it. We've just been a bit rubbish at getting our shicer together. So nice to hear from you, mate. And I'm really pleased the guitar's working for you.
That's
and
great.
I would like to see it with that mint guard because that's what I wanted to do to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're about to finish. Samuel Blanc would love to answer your question, which is what made you start the channel and how do you get celebrities such as Noel Gallagher on? It would be a very long and complex answer. The short answer is, genuinely, we started the channel because we wanted to have a laugh and play the guitar a bit loud in a way that we weren't able to do anymore as we were getting a bit older.
Yeah. Mick and I, whenever we got together, we just talk about gear and conversations that were just really fun, and we're both really passionate about it. And then one day we were in LA at NAMM, and then Mick said, "Why don't we do this? Why don't we just film these conversations?" And that was the start 7 years ago in the back of a little cupboard in Swindon. Now, as far as getting people on the show, I think so. Mick has been in guitar magazines forever. I've been building rigs for people, so
we know a lot of people between
know
us.
a lot of people.
But we don't go after people, so we could abuse a lot of those friendships a lot harder than we do, and we don't do that because then you wouldn't have the friendships. So it's treading a very deft line of casually suggesting to somebody, if you're ever up for it, we're up for it, not hounding them, because it's just When your relationship is based on one thing with somebody, you can't just flick it to then it being something else.
Yeah, yeah.
And these
that's
people,
right.
you've got to respect their privacy. You've got to respect their artistic position. And so with Noel, it was just a very, very long game of Dan kind of knowing him and us knowing Paul Stacey. And then one day it just happened.
Yeah.
But we won't chase because we don't want to leave a bad taste in people's mouth. And we want it to be a good thing for everyone. So I'm sure that slightly more proactive, success-driven people would chase a bit harder, but Dan and I really aren't that. We'd rather it be organic and happen because it's kind of supposed to happen, not because we're... Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of chasing.
Sure.
Makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But, you know, you put the feeler out and you say, would you ever want to do this? And they say, you know what, maybe.
Well, Noel suggested it to me. Like, you know, he'd watched the show, like, from early on. Like, you know, when we were back in Swindon. And he'd said, oh, yeah, I'd be up for coming down to Swindon. And I'm like, it was almost so surreal, I didn't really take it in.
Yeah.
Because I think we'd had Graham Coxon on, and that started that conversation.
Yeah. I think also it's it's an environment that they get to talk about something that isn't about the feud between Blur and Oasis, and it's not about the brothers, and it's not about the personal life, and it's not about all the other stuff that mainstream media is interested in.
Yeah.
They can just indulge in their passion, and it takes a minute for that penny to drop, I think, with some people that are... it's very hard to imagine what life is like when you are seriously famous.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. You can't go to the supermarket, really, at that level, because people are unbelievable. They will just literally grab you and take selfies and form crowds around you and all of that. You know, at that level of fame is unimaginable. And as such, those people, it's not like we're scared of them, but they do need it needs to be a bit different in its organisation and the way it works and the way it comes together. Because you don't want to be that person grabbing them by the arm and asking them for a selfie.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though that's exactly what we did at the end of the interview. We sort of felt we'd earned it by then, but yeah. Anyway, so we'll see. Yes, Alistair Ray. I sold the Isbell telly to Charlie to help fund my old Strat. I really wanted a telly, but I wasn't using it because Dan plays the telly and we don't...
Mick is very kind because Mick sounds amazing on a telly, and I feel sad playing a telly after Mick has played the telly.
You're such a twit. And it wasn't really getting used, and I did need to raise a bit of money, so that was one of the ways in which I did it. And it now has a home with Charlie, which I'm very pleased about because it goes out and it gets gigged. I'm sort of sad because it was such a great sounding guitar.
It really was.
But a bit like the SG that's gone now, it's like I'd love to have that guitar, but actually, in reality, when I pick up a Gibson, it's going to be the 335 or the Lester,
Sure.
Which isn't to say there'll never be an SG, but just not today.
Sure.
Not today. Don't look back at Bangor. Don't look back at Grandma. Don't look back at Grandma. Just saying. Okay. Good. Thank you for being here, everyone. Jamie says, Mick, when is your H90 video coming? Well, that'll be the last question today. Dan and I have sort of semi-committed to doing a video on complex pedals. I've got the Eventide H90. Dan's got the Meris LVX. And we started it over a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been motivated to do any more.
Sure.
Things have been very busy, to be fair.
Very busy.
And without wishing it to sound like a sob story, I have had no personal playing time, but I was in a bit of a bad mood yesterday, Dan. A psychological time was getting a hold of me.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to pack it up, put it back in the box, and actually get on with something I do want to do in my life. Because it's a waste of time.
Okay.
And then I thought, no, that's a bit rubbish. We'll finish the task. Fact is, so I'm either scared because I don't understand it, which is probably likely. You know, I turn it on and I read the manual. I'm like, oh. All I want to do is turn the delay level down.
Yep.
And I lose hours of my life where I could be having lovely analog devices with knobs that make sense. And I'm making music. But that's the whole point of the video, right?
Right.
Is to see how we overcome those challenges. And it is on my board, and it's on my board for experience days, and I am sort of kind of learning it, but it's, yeah, I'm not motivated.
Sure.
To want to learn it.
Yeah.
So need to find some way in. Which will make the video good watching. I do have a ridiculously complex solution to getting around the dry signal. Because the bypass sound is not to my liking, but okay, let's turn that around. The thing I am excited about using it for is a bit of outboard gear for production.
Yeah, right.
It's brilliant. 2 separate engines.
Yeah, okay.
Kill dry.
Yeah.
Absolutely mega processing on board.
Right.
And some really killer sounds.
Yeah.
So once the track's done, actually doing the post-prod with it.
Oh, wow.
I won't use any other reverb or delay plugins. I'll only use that. And that part I'm really looking forward to, because then you get a computer interface like you would get with a plugin.
Right.
And in that world, when I've got 3 screens around me and I can see what's going on.
Oh, really?
Happy days.
Yeah,
I'm completely happy with that. What I cannot stand is playing the flipping guitar and scrolling through 18 menus.
Yeah.
Because that's just a killer.
Yeah.
It's a complete passion killer. For me, anyway. So, there you go. Is that enough grumpiness?
I think it's all very reasonable.
Sorry, we're talking talking rubbish. Good. Right. Thank you for being with us. Uncle Larry is the official word on vintage Strat sounds, Mick. Recognise you haven't touched as many as he has. No, I haven't. He just happens to be one of the best guitar players in the world and is a very in-demand Nashville session dude. No, I definitely don't know as much about them as Uncle Larry does. He would be great to have on the show, as Mike Doctor is saying. Yes, I watched a couple homeschoolings today while I was doing something else.
I bought his shirt.
I love him.
Yeah, I just think he's
so
the
brilliant.
most. Yeah, he's wonderful. I got a message from Barry, who's become friends with him, and he said that he's been hanging out with him. He said the stuff that he plays when he's just noodling around. He said, "You wait till he gets going." He said, he's just. You only ever hear him just warming up. And Owen's astonishing.
Yeah.
And he just says he can't believe how amazing he is. That's so lovely.
Indeed. One day. Okay, thanks for being here. Friday's video will probably be the aforementioned funk show. It was going to be the vlog on the Strat bridges, but I still haven't done it. I am going to do it. I've got it all planned out. But it will probably be the funk show. We're going to talk about sounds. We're going to talk about a few chords that might be helpful to you. We're going to talk about maybe some ideas for using 2 guitars and see if we can lift the lid on some funky guitar playing.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Indeed.
My eyes are watering. Why is that?
Because you I don't know.
I'm crying. It's emotion.
It is.
Oh,
Very much.
It's a new thing.
This is
Is it a new thing for me?
I had my moment with Annie Timmins and I went, and you went, oh, it's beautiful.
It's so beautiful. I'm actually saying, please put the guitar down. Right. See you next week. Bye. Play us out, Dan.